Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of GHE Diaries. Today we have with us Vikrant Kalra, who is joining us from United States and has been part of expeditions with GHE over the past couple of years. And today we'll touch a different side of story, wherein we'll be discussing how CSR plays an important part in social development. Welcome, Vikrant.
Hey Vishal, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's been long due. Just to start, Vikrant, can you give us a quick intro about yourself for the audience, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. I am part of the corporate world. I've been part of the corporate world for 22, 23 years. Started in India and then lived around the world. Right now I'm in the US. Not sure for how long, but yeah, continue to work with a big corporation and managing teams, managing relationships with suppliers, with all kinds of internal stakeholders. That's pretty much the gist of my job. That's what I do for a living. Apart from that, what have I done? To be on this podcast, I think has been a little bit of my association with GHE. Came out of my days of rough road rallying in Ladakh, and then a bunch of mountaineering summit attempts in that region, which eventually led to a common connection, which then led to me meeting up with Paris, I think 2017, and that's pretty much been a journey. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Vikrant. And so now that you've touched this topic of how you first came across GHE, I mean, my question probably is going to be as you rightly said that you're from the corporate sector. What particular aspect of GHE excited you the most? I mean, this is something that I wanted to understand from you.
So as part of my profile in India, Vishal, I landed with the mandate of CSR, which is apart from the other stuff that I was doing for the corporation. So within CSR, I'd never done something like that before, and my role was pan India. So I kind of was experimenting with what could I do, just to bring around some change. We were working with a bunch of NGOs, local and international at that time. And I think it was in one of those conversations, sitting in a little bar in Gurgaon with someone who was part of the organization at that time, about how could we change the whole model of purely working within non-profit organizations, and that's when GHE came up, which was at that time our first social enterprise relationship. So I had to make a connect with Paras as a starting point, and then get him into the office to make a pitch, and that's how it started. I was very firmly of a belief at that time that most of our associations with not for profit organizations were not working very well. Whether it be transparency around the impact, or just what I got to see when I would make some visits. 80% of the organizations were not really where I would expect them to be operationally, or even in terms of the internal processes that they would run. So that's how the need to get to a different paradigm kind of came in, and then I think GHE was the first one, and after that we signed up a bunch of other social enterprises, so for-profit enterprises. But I think the journey began with GHE.
That's wonderful. And how has it been? I mean, I guess, it's been 4 years since the first interaction happened between you and GHE. How has the experience been for you? And what are your thoughts of the impact activities that GHE has taken in the past 4 years?
So Vishal, this probably will be my favorite one to answer. The big reason for that is that personally I gained a whole lot. I was going to Ladakh every year. In fact, some of the
Okay.
villages that we electrified, I would cross these villages with the rally cars, but never really stepped a foot in these villages to know what the life there is about. So, you know, I actually stopped going to the rally after my first trip with Paras, because it just, the whole mindset shifted, that while we thought that we were bringing economic welfare and jobs and all that to the region, we were also bringing along a whole lot of ecological impact. And that's not something that I was thinking about at the time when I was doing it for 4 years. But when I did my first trip with GHE, that whole mindset shifted, and thankfully so. Where I decided that if I have to come back to the region, then it probably is going to be more purposeful. And then we went back again. I think it was a year after we went back again, and did a village and a school again. So it's just a totally different, totally different experience for me. Very beneficial at a personal level. Helped me kind of think through a lot of things at an organizational level. And from what we saw, I am a business guy. That's all I've done in operations and in management. So from what I saw GHE doing, totally made sense, because it had the stamp of sustainability on it. And when I say sustainability, I'm purely talking economics. That you could scale it up beyond a point of just giving electricity, and scale it up to where it makes it changes the economics of the region, and that to me was very powerful. I had not seen many organizations do that. Why and we probably still don't. We work with other organizations who are social enterprises, but it's more a matter of getting a product to a place in the country where the product is not easily available, whether it's just safe drinking water or something else. While it makes a massive impact on the health, I don't think it is as direct an impact as what GHE is doing in just raising the level of what level of living, affordability, sustainability, all those good things that come along with the model that GHE follows. So from what I know, although I've moved to the US, but the organization is still working with GHE, and I think that's been now going on for 4 or 5 years straight. So it's nice to see that things didn't change when I moved away, and while I handed over the mandate to someone else, it seems like GHE is there, and continues to be a big part of our partnership in India.
You said that your first trip was something that helped change your mindset and probably uh, gave you a different perspective of what development means to these remote regions. Can you share a little bit more about what your first trip was exactly about, where you went, and how it was for you?
Well, the first trip was many years back. I think it was 2017. So I'm gonna kind of jog my fuzzy memory. But I think our first trip was a two-part trip, where we went to a village called Itcher, right
Uh-huh.
at the end of the Zanskar Valley, and there um, I think in Itcher our purpose was to computerize the school, give them computers that would run off solar power, on a local intranet, kind of a knowledge bank. So that was the first leg of the trip. And then from Itcher, we headed on, which was I think literally all day hike, to the village of Marling, which was deeper into Zanskar. So that was the trip, and Marling, of course, was electrification. Both were, some things that I hadn't seen in effect happen before. Of course, Paras and JD had given me the script of what we will be doing and how we will be doing it. But to see it in action, to actually be participating in it, to see the reactions of the kids, to be able to interact with them while this was changing, I knew that this is not a small change for them. It was probably a small trip for us because it lasted for a week, but the change that I think we were able to somehow facilitate or somehow participate in was really what is still very fresh. I remember what they were searching the first time they logged into the computer. I clearly remember my conversation with some of the kids. I clearly remember the next morning's prayer at the school. So yeah, so those memories are very vivid. And then the same thing repeated itself a day after when we went to Marling to electrify the village. You knew that life would not be the same for them, and in a small measure for me as well, because it was my first time witnessing something like that. So yes, again, that's my answer to your question. I think the change was so profound and so visible and right in your face, where you knew that henceforth things will be different for those kids, and henceforth things will be different for those families who now had electricity in their homes in the village of Marling.
uh, I want to understand from your perspective in this case, what role can CSR play in empowering these remote communities? I mean, there are CSR projects happening everywhere, but for these communities, what significance does it hold, and what is the kind of impact that such projects make through CSR in this case?
Yeah, I think organizations need to understand, Vishal, um, that in the cities there is a problem of plenty. At least I saw it. The organizations that we are funding, there was no dearth of funding, honestly, for these organizations. Um, so I think the cities are a little bit of a inflection point where everyone wants to do something that they can touch and feel. And when I say everyone, I mean organizations. When it goes to far-flung areas like Ladakh, I think a lot of organizations shy away because it does not bring with it the level of employee engagement, the show and tell that usually goes along with CSR projects. So, so I think it takes a little bit of an effort, and that's probably means that you don't want to do CSR as a thing to do, but more as something that has to be done right. And for that, you have to venture to where other organizations are probably hesitant to go, or it is just difficult in terms of all resources. And India is there are plenty of regions like that. I know you guys are working in the Northeast now, so there's just plenty to do in a country like India, and I wish my my little piece of advice to organizations would be to go beyond the ordinary, and try to get into communities where the problem of plenty doesn't exist. In fact, there might be extreme paucity of resources, and enough organizations within India who are really interested in going to remote villages, whether it be northeast, the central eastern part of India, or just the north, where GHE has done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for putting that out. I was thinking along these lines as well that we've recently. Thank you for sharing that insight in terms of the CSR side of things, and uh, how they can make an impact and what needs to happen from their end to make this impact.
Mhm.
Any final thoughts that you might have that you want to share?
Yes, no, it's fantastic. Sorry, Vishal, fantastic to see that you guys are expanding into the Northeast. I've been to that area, and I think the potential there is huge. Um, Especially to do it in the way that if it is a model that has been done very well in Ladakh, then it keeps the sanctity and the sanctuary of that place intact, and brings them closer to mainstream. And I think that's probably the best way to do it. So I'm very interested in what you guys eventually end up doing in the Northeast. I think that region could also use a lot of support from corporations around India, especially in the big cities, which are not currently participating in the Northeast, I guess.
Thank you for that, Vikrant. And I guess it's been awesome talking to you. Sorry for keeping you up this late in your evening, but thank you for taking out the time and sharing your thoughts about what it has been, what an experience it has been with GHE. And with that, I'd like to sum up this episode. Once again, it'll be lovely to talk to you again, but for now, we're done.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and for our audience here, we'll get back to you with another one. Thank you.